Good day, Dr. Clem. Good day, everyone. I'm Jillian Allen Puentes, and I'll be discussing the propaganda model by Edward Herman and Noam Chomsky. And I'll be tackling mainly the background of the authors and the overview of the overall topic. So, who is Edward Herman? So, Edward Herman was born on April 7, 1925 in Philadelphia and died on November 11, 2017 at the age of 92 because of his bladder cancer. Herman was a prominent American economist and media critic known for his expansive research on business's influence, media studies, and political economy. He obtained a doctorate degree from the University of California, Berkeley, where he studied economics and was a lecturer at Wharton School of Business, University of Pennsylvania. So, because of his training in economics, Herman's interest turned towards the effects of corporate dominance and economic interest on the content of media. His investigations often examine the relationships between corporations, governments, and the media, and how did this affect the creations of public opinions, public information, and consent. So, prior to his partnership with Chomsky, Herman had authored an article titled Corporate Control, Corporate Power, a 20th Century Fund Study in 1971, where he analyzed the control and influence of big corporations and business. Also, because of his background in economics, he analyzed how the profit in media organizations affect the content they create, make, or write, which was instrumental in the development of what came to be known as the propaganda model. So, who is Noam Chomsky? Noam Chomsky was born on December 7, 1928 in Philadelphia as well, and is still alive and kicking as of today. And Noam Chomsky is a well-known linguist, professor, cognitive scientist, and a political activist. He received his PhD in linguistics at the University of Pennsylvania, and for over 3 decades was a professor at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology or MIT. However, linguistics is not only the field of study that Chomsky has dived into. He has criticized, among others, the foreign policy of the US, capitalism, and the propaganda that is enforced through the media. One of the pillars of Chomsky's criticism of the media is his claim that mass media is owned by the ruling class and is used to control information and create support for its policies among the people in order to implement policies that are beneficial for the elites. And now, we're going to discuss the overview of the propaganda model. So, the propaganda model contends that the mass media system seek to procure national interest not for the people but to serve the powerful elite and corporations. In this instance, the media act as a propaganda tool that shapes public opinion by selecting and framing news in a way that aligns with powerful institution interests, just like theirs. So, this model explains how economic, social, and political structures determine what is reported in the media, how particular stories are represented, and who is afforded more prominence in the coverage. So, the authors, both Herman and Chomsky, argue that rather than acting as a watchdog of democracy, mainstream media often serve as tools for elite interest rather than impartial disseminators of information in a society. And the propaganda model has five filters. The first filter is the size, ownership, and profit orientation of the mass media. So, this first filter would dive mainly into the concentration of ownership of mass media in a capitalist society or developed countries. It talks about that only few people or large corporations that are part of the upper class owns the media, which only means that perspective and interest of these people would be dominantly disseminated by the media in a society that results to limitations of diversity of viewpoints and would marginalize dissent. And most of these media companies are part of the conglomerates, which means that these people who owns the media controls other industries as well, such as telecommunications, energy, water, and other services. So what does it mean? The media that should be a guardian of democracy that is for truth and is objective and fair is being used as a tool for propaganda of these big corporations to shield them whenever there is an issue of any companies they own or would create a biased content favoring them, the corporations and the elites. And the second filter is the advertising license to do business. So the second filter highlights the role of advertising as a major funding source for media organizations. So according to this filter, media dependence on advertising revenue significantly shapes the nature and content of media, creating biases that favor the interest of advertisers and corporate elites over public interest. So this filter would tackle how advertisers become the primary customer of media rather than the public, how the media commodifies the audience and treat them as a product. And also how media censor itself or avoid producing news or any content that could put the advertisers in jeopardy. So for the third filter, it is sourcing of mass media news. So this third filter would explore in the ways news articles across mainstream media depends on official sources as their primary source. So this filter shows how the supposed to be independent media relies on conventional powerful institutions to provide the public with news reports and analysis. So in relying on government agencies, corporations and large institutions as sources, the media merely parrots official perspectives and thus only upholding the status quo, which is the dominant perspective of the elites. So for the fourth filter, the flock and the enforcers, in this filter, we will know how powerful groups apply pressure to shape media content and suppress dissent. Flack refers to the backlash aimed at media outlets, journalists, or anyone public figures for content that challenges or opposes elite interest. So in this filter, we're going to know how this block discourages journalists or media outlets to speak up or to offer different viewpoints that are against to the elite's perspectives. So for the final filter, the anti-communism as a control mechanism, the label communism serves as a powerful tool for unifying the public against a common enemy because this was originated during the Cold War. The fear of communism in the US and other Western countries, with media echoing this narrative, only amplifies the idea of this ideology as a threat to freedom and democracy. Although Herman and Chomsky in their 2009 interview by Andrew Mullen, they stated that anti-terrorism and war on terror can be replaced with anti-communism as this too has provided a useful substitute for the Soviet menace as of today's society. So by this, we can assume that the other radical ideologies that is opposed to the perspective and interest of the elites can be used through fostering a pervasive sense of threat with media as a tool. So basically, these are the five filters on the propaganda model prepared or examined by Edward Herman and Noam Chomsky, and my other group mates would further discuss this and deep dive more into this so that you would know how each of the filter uh, serves as a propaganda for the elites. So let me end my presentation with this quoted phrase that is part of the text. So Noam Chomsky and Edward Herman stated that these filters interact with and reinforce one another. The raw material of news must pass through successive filters, leaving only the cleansed residue fit to print. So what is this ready to print? This is of course the worthy for the elites. This is of course their perspective, their viewpoint, their ideology, their their beliefs on the society that is supposed to be dominant within a society. So again, I am Jillian Allen Puentes and thank you for listening.